My name is Adam McBride. I am a doctor of chiropractic. I have been a doctor of chiropractic since June 2015. I got my license officially in September of 2015, and I have worked for a clinic. I have also worked for myself doing house calls, and I have also had my own practice in beautiful Pacific Beach, San Diego for the last nearly 4 years now. And I just wanted to give a little story about how I got to where I am now. Back when I was 15 years old, I was in a wrestling training camp when I was still living in Massachusetts at the time, where I was born and raised. And I ended up getting injured in one of the dual matches that we had in this training camp, and I injured my neck. And for several days, probably like 3-4 days ongoing, I was just constantly stretching it, just trying to get it working. I was putting ice on it. I was trying to like dead hang from a bar, and just nothing was helping. Nothing was working. And I then was telling my mom about this, and she goes, let me take you to my chiropractor. So admittedly, at this point, I was very shocked about how she was so eager to take me to one, and I was scared because I thought I was just going to rip my neck off. And luckily, he had also been a wrestler himself, so he had a natural empathy and understanding for what I was going through. And I felt that this was a very good option for this time because, okay, at least he's going to have a genuine idea of what I might have as an issue, and he could fix it. So about 3 appointments in, he had done some soft tissue stuff, some adjusting on my neck, some things to my upper back, and I was 100%. And I was flabbergasted. I was incredibly surprised about how well this treatment had done for me. And month after month or year after year, I would continue to go see him throughout my entire high school career, and then even going between the times where I would come back from college. And he would just take care of me. He would take care of things like a shoulder injury, an elbow injury, and a lower back injury. He even helped me one time with an ankle that I twisted, and I was back to being up and running about a week later. It was truly incredible. Every single time I left his office, I was like, this guy's a miracle worker. And yeah, it was just like something that I had really found that I just resonated with a lot. And I was thinking at this time in high school about what I'm going to become in my lifetime. And I had originally thought to myself, yeah, maybe I should go into personal training or strength and conditioning, because I always was an athlete myself growing up. In high school, I specifically was a wrestler all 4 years, including captain my senior year. And I also did varsity track and field, mostly sprinting and the throwing sports, especially javelin. And yeah, I had really thought to myself, I'm going to go into this. I still wanted to have a clinical nature of how to fix people. And that became where I started directing my sights more towards physical therapy. And as I went throughout my college career, I decided, okay, you know what? I am going to major in health and exercise science, or kinesiology as they called it, which is the science of movement. So going through all these classes like biology, chemistry, physics, all the basic sciences, and then you start getting into the more kinesthetic nature of what you're actually doing in these kinds of sciences, it started making a little more sense to me that maybe there's something more that I can do, and it wouldn't just be involving personal training or physical therapy. So I decided, okay, I'm at a great point in my life where I can just start doing internships and just getting an understanding of knowledge. And when I was 19, I originally got certified as a personal trainer, and then I came back at 21 and got recertified so I could actually start personal training then. And I loved the idea of helping people just with empowerment, of getting themselves stronger, of getting their endurance up, of having issues that they were dealing with for so long get better through the idea of movement. And I totally respect the hustle that is what people have in the fitness industry in this day. And you can see on social media and the real world, it's not easy. It is not easy. And I had suffered a lot through that process of learning about what the fitness industry was like. having like 12 to 14 hour days on some days, just taking care of clients, getting your workout in between clients, learning how to program, and yeah, just doing all that kind of stuff. So I had done that for a number of years. I had been a personal trainer for a number of years, and I also had done a couple different internships in physical therapy hospitals where I actually worked in three of them myself. And I liked the idea of helping people after surgery, or if they've just been dealing with some issues that had come up from, various other injuries or lifestyle habits. And I still felt that there was a little bit more that I really wanted to do, that I felt my calling towards in this regard of how I was going to have a career for myself. And when I started really looking into this, I started asking my original chiropractor again, went right back to the source, and like told him, like, I'm really inspired. I really want to see if I can become a chiropractor. And he started giving me a couple phone numbers for people that I would just call and interview. And I wasn't so quite convinced with it yet. So then my mom actually hooked me up with an internship through the New England Baptist Hospital that's in like West Roxbury, like Massachusetts, which is like close enough to Boston. And it was a great experience I did for a month working under a physician assistant, because I actually thought about going into physician assistant studies to work on orthopedics as a career. I was like starting to like really narrow in my scope. One big thing that I really noticed, and I respect the hell out of that industry as well, but one big thing I really noticed about that industry was that most of the people you would see would be already out of shape, and they were just really not healthy individuals who were getting like a knee or a hip or some kind of replacement in their body. And I saw probably like over 50 different surgeries when I was there, between carpal tunnel surgery, between neck surgery, between lower back surgery, between hips, knees, ankles, the works. And it was great to see all those things, but again, it was like, can we get to the problem before it becomes a bigger issue? Because I really am a believer of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I still live by that principle today. And really, right after the internship, I started looking into chiropractic schools and what they were going to require. And I ended up going to Life University, which is based in Marietta, Georgia, due to actually visiting that school. But not only that, my original chiropractor, who was my mentor back in high school and a little bit of college, had also told me, you'll get the best clinical experience possible. And for me, I wanted to get my hands on as many people as possible to refine and perfect my skill and continue to practice that and become better and better, be able to help out more and more people with complicated and challenging situations that they haven't gotten any, really good response from Western medicine because of. So I ended up going to Life University. I started there in October of 2010, and I went through a number of different classes throughout that time. I don't need to get into all that. Number of different seminars into all that. And then by 2014, I started studying what's called applied kinesiology, which is like the art and science of muscle testing to determine any kind of physical, biochemical, or even emotional dysfunction that's affecting the body. And what I loved about it is that this was bringing together all the things I had learned throughout my entire life, from personal training to soft tissue care to nutritional supplementation to how the body's supposed to move in certain perspectives and planes of motion. In addition to that, it even combined aspects I learned from like first quarter biochemistry, which I didn't even think was going to be that much of an important subject in our school, in our curriculum program. But needless to say, I took advantage of learning under some great mentors from the International College of Applied Kinesiology, or the ICAK. And I had also gotten myself professional applied kinesiology certified as well. I've done actually probably over, I think, 500 or 600 postgraduate hours or something like that of that material. And I continue to study that every day. I mean, I have books upon books here as well as in my own home, because knowledge has been just a drug for me. And that was a very big thing for me to really get a conceptual understanding of the human body, from like how it's supposed to work. Like, everybody's going to have a different structure, but we can always restore functioning in a certain way. And it wasn't just a simple adjustment, like a chiropractic cracking, that made the person better. It was how you support that. Why would the function still not work, even if you did adjust the entire joint? What kind of nutrition or diet was this person having that was contributing to these issues? And how can you kind of make a care plan to be able to build that into how this person is going to make an active recovery and become a better version of themselves, or at least restore them to how they were originally before this problem became a bigger dysfunction in their whole life. And there's definitely a spiritual element of chiropractic as well, because they believe in the idea of what's called innate intelligence, where it's just like your body naturally knows about how to heal. And the example I usually like to give people is when you get cut, like the Band-Aid's not doing the healing, you're doing the healing. The Band-Aid is just helping it. So I graduated in June of 2015. Prior to that, I'd actually done an internship, or what we called our PEAK program, from Life University through San Diego Chiropractic Group out of Claremont area of San Diego. And I learned under some wonderful doctors there, as well as some acupuncturists and even a medical doctor out there, about how the whole system of healthcare is just management now, and what I could learn by putting my techniques and skills and abilities into an actual clinical setting now. And they had me for about an 11-week period, I believe, for an internship, where I just basically shadowed them and just helped them out with paperwork in the office. I learned how the front office worked. And on the second to last day of my internship, they offered me a job. And I was just so excited to have a job right outside of school, because everybody else is graduating with the term doctor, with the title doctor, and I'm graduating with not only that, but I have a set situation coming up for myself to be able to be situated by the time I get out there. And so I go from California back to Georgia, graduate, drive with my now ex-wife at that time, all the way out from Georgia back to California. And it took me a couple months before I got my license and stuff like that. And then when I started practicing, it started going really well. I ended up practicing from September 2015 to about October 2017, I believe. And then I asked for a raise, since all their numbers went up, including myself, and just how much I brought into this company. And we were originally on a 50-50 split, which I didn't mind at the time, and I thought was very good for me at that time. I also thought to myself that we can do better, and I can do better, especially because there's a lot more that I want to do outside of a insurance, Medicare, PI based clinic, personal injury based clinic, that could really address a holistic nature to the individual, instead of just seeing the person for 5 to 15 minutes and then sending them on their way. And I really believed in that philosophy, because I believe in the philosophy that I don't want to see you that much. I want to make sure that we get to the root cause of these issues, take care of them, and then from there we go into really a care plan about how you can actually manage yourself for life, that you can always continue to keep understanding your body, keep getting better. And I've started getting that more and more as the years have gone on. So this June of 2024 will be 9 years officially that I've been a chiropractor. And honestly, this time's kind of flown by, if I'm being real with you. And when I started my own business, because when I had asked for a raise, they had told me, no, absolutely not, that's never going to happen. Okay, I accepted it, and I started planning for the next venture for myself. So by about April 2018, I filed for a incorporation, because in the state of California you have what's called an S corp. I filed for an incorporation to have my business, which is called SoCal Concierge Chiropractic, because I was primarily doing house calls at that time while I was still working out of a clinic, because I really wanted just to start building business for myself. And like anything, it starts small, and you gradually build over time. And then I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine who he worked out of a gym in Mission Valley, San Diego, and they were actually looking to start a sports rehab department. And I called the original guy who ran the sports rehab department at the headquarters of this place. It was called Self-Made Training Facility, and I thank them, and I thank a lot of people who got me involved with them to begin with, because that was when things really started taking off. That was when I started really getting to know trainers in these gyms, and then working with them, and then showing the abilities that I had to be able to help them so they could keep them training. And I could also have a presence within a gym space, which I really well knew because I've worked in several gyms in my lifetime. And I know trainer language, so it was easy to be able to communicate with them to give them a better understanding of like the material that we could actually, compare and contrast to give the best benefit to their clients who would be my patients. So I worked there from August of 2018 until literally July 31st, 2020. So needless to say, there was a lot going on in the world at that time, and the gym was forced to close in March of 2020 when the pandemic was first going on, and I was forced to see people out of their house calls that I was doing, as well as my own apartment, because hey, people needed care. So I was still considered an essential worker at that time, per state law by California. And luckily for me, I appreciated that. With that being said, I then had a golden opportunity to go find an office, and this one was one of maybe 30 plus offices that I looked at, and I'm so blessed to be here in my office right here, which is on 2180 Garnett Avenue, Suite 3L, like in Lion, San Diego, California, 92109. So it's in the heart of Pacific Beach. And I cannot tell you about how blessed and grateful I am for the opportunity to be here and be in this space, and knowing what that took to get to that point. Because literally, like, I worked at Self-Made my last day on July 31st, 2020, and I started in this office seeing patients on August 1st, 2020. So this summer will actually be 4 years of me being in my own office. And now we're starting to even evolve a little bit past that, because as I said, I think chiropractic has a very spiritual element of that. And I started really getting into the spiritual aspect of life as well as my healthcare profession back in October of 2018. Reason being was that I was away at a continuing education seminar, and I unfortunately had my ex-wife take off at that point, and then it was followed up by a divorce following that, which at the time I thought was like one of the worst things that could ever happen, but turns out it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I learned a lot in that process, and it really was my spiritual awakening moment. I was 32 years old. I was working 3 different jobs at that time, at a clinic, at the gym, and doing house calls. And I was also paying all the bills. I was also, taking care of her while she was in a doctorate program herself. So there was a lot of challenges that I faced with that. And, I felt that in this video I could be a little more vulnerable in showing that side of what you don't typically see on like the bravado of an individual. But, I've learned a lot through that process, and, that woke me up, because it gave me an understanding that I needed to do something different in life. And I wasn't doing like the proper things that were getting me to where I wanted to be at that time. And, I do believe that everything does happen for a reason. I believe that there's meaning in everything. And I'm sure there was plenty of meaning in what happened between her and I. And, honestly, at this point, I do wish her the best, because, there's a lot of processing that I've done in that amount of time. And, the reality is that, we all have to go through like that one moment in life where it just kind of explains a lot bigger aspects about how much you don't know about what's going on in life, and how much you will never know. And in doing a little more self-exploration, I ended up going to Peru in August of 2019, because I hadn't had a vacation in about 2 years between the divorce and moving and then running my own business, and I was just exhausted in every way possible. And I had really wanted to get a deeper understanding of who I was. So I had gone to Peru and participated with a couple different shamans doing an ayahuasca ceremony. And for those of you who don't know what ayahuasca is, it's basically a vine and a root that are combined into a brew that when you drink it, it ends up creating what's called dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. And this is what actually opens what's called your pineal gland, or your third eye of consciousness. And that's a whole other story for another day. But upon doing that, it definitely opened my mind to a lot of different things that I had held on to, and paradigms that I had been, relying upon for so long. And just with that idea of just learning how to surrender into what my life was becoming was a big thing I took away from that medicine. And, I've continued to learn things past that point in regards to plant medicine, in regards to spirituality, which includes things like religion and philosophies, as well as things like numerology and astrology and Chinese astrology, or lunar astrology they call it. And it's let me learn things about like energy, about chakras and Taurus fields, and all these different things that combine with so many different aspects of what I see every single day in patients. And from all those different aspects of learning about energy and life and philosophy, it's given me a much greater perspective of how I look at the individual and how I see people and how they deal with their issues. And the more I can learn about an individual from the scope of history and from the scope of what that history has contributed to their current problems with, it's one of those things that, because of the fact that now I know these techniques and strategies more, it just gives me a much larger and wider perspective to look at an individual and say, hey, how do we help this person? And in branching out from being a doctor of chiropractic, I have started to actually learn to teach and coach people on how they can use this imprinted energy for this bigger idea of self-mastery. And I'll talk a lot more about that in future videos, but I just want to give you kind of my story, and I appreciate you being here and listening, and I love you.